Session 4 is Guided Meditation on Bodhicitta by Venerable Geshe Lhakdor, Director, Library of Tibetan Works and Archives. May I request Venerable Geshe Lhakdor to take his place on the dais and guide us all in meditation. Venerable Geshe Lhakdor.
So Arun Kapoor ji, you are going to get some problem. When I spoke to Arun ji that everything has been said on Bodhicitta, so what I am supposed to teach, he said, just tell people to sleep. Shall I do that? So really, during such conferences, somebody has to do something, So that is how I ended up here. I have no expertise in teaching meditation and things like that, but somebody has to do something, right? So that's why I'm here. So I'll try to be almost like spontaneous talk, because बुढ़ापे में कुछ नहीं आता यहाँ सोचने से, है ना? So let us try to make it simple. And occasionally, Pempadorji also saying keep quiet. So that is true. That is true. Keep quiet. And if I'm speaking to a group of young people, lay people, I can help a little bit. But you're all like highly advanced practitioners, scholars, right? So it's like, this is not for the first time. It happened many times. So I always tell them, oh, this is difficult because this is like preaching the converts, But as I said, somebody has to do something. And on looking around among the Sanghas also, I am the oldest person. So there may be one reason you asked me to teach. So anyway, let us make it simple. Another point that I want to, on the one hand, I really uplifted you by saying you are all experienced, all the scholars. Now I am doing the other way around. You may be highly learned scholars, experienced persons, age-wise also like me. But like me, you may not also be able to practice many things that you wanted to practice, So it's important to sit together and discuss, try to give more like energy so that we may take some steps very soon. So to make it simple, whether you talk about meditation, whether you talk about like study, whether you talk about whatever human activities, the purpose of all those is supposed to bring more happiness. है कि नहीं? Don't make it complicated. I have asked this question to many places. I'm going to ask it here also. Do you want happiness? I asked this in many places. I'm just coming from London. I asked there also. They say yes. So my second question is, okay, if you want happiness, for how many days you want happiness? देखो हंस रहा है, जवाब नहीं दे रहा, हंस रहा है ना? तो ठीक है, हंसने से भी अब बोल रहा है कि हाँ, इसको कोई पूछने वाला नहीं है, हमको बहुत लंबे समय तक खुशी चाहिए, यही है ना सब? Just this is enough for your meditation. And this is something you need to think on a regular basis. I want happiness. I want happiness as long as possible. This has to be repeated again and again, because the way we think and the way we do are contradictory. सोचने में तो हम तो सोचता है ये चाहिए वो चाहिए, लेकिन करता नहीं हम, इसलिए हम मार खा जाता है. Really, at least this is my personal experience. करता नहीं हम लोग, सोचते रहते, ये भी चाहिए. मैंने भी सोचा था मुझे $1 million यहाँ से आ जाए, सोचता रहा कुछ नहीं मिला क्योंकि काम नहीं किया मैंने. ठीक है ना? So this is important. Let us make it simple. I know you know all this, but we need to think about this again and again. I want happiness. I want happiness as long as possible. So far we are all in agreement. So बाद में ऑर्गेनाइजर को बोलूँगा अब से 10 का ले लो. हैप्पीनेस चाहिए, as long as possible हैप्पीनेस चाहिए. 10 का ले लेना सर सबका. The next question is more problematic. Just by saying I want happiness as long as possible, happiness will not come. So next pertinent and important question is, what are the main sources or source of that long-term happiness? Or in other words, which is the long-term source of happiness? Which is the main source for the long? I use the word main because थोड़ा कुछ तो खाने से भी आता है, घूमने से भी आता है, थोड़ा happiness तो आता है ना, इसलिए मैं I qualify it in saying what do you think is the main source of the long-lasting happiness? बताओ मुझे. सिर्फ मैं ही बोलते जाने से अच्छा नहीं लगता. अब बताओ. What do you think is the main source of the long-lasting happiness? Don't just say Bodhicitta, huh? Huh? Health. Contentment, health, so many things you can say. Now you need to be, in order to come up with a good solution, good answer, you need to be very specific. When you say health, physical health, mental health, so many things, economical health. So what kind of health you are talking about? Huh? Now many people say the main source of long-term happiness is, when I ask this question, they say, andar se aana hai, which is correct. But again, you need to make it very clear. What do you mean that the main source of long-lasting happiness is from inside? What do you mean? Do you mean that just by thinking, not doing anything, फिर खाना भी आ जाएगा, पैसा भी आ जाएगा, तुम सोते रहो, अच्छा अच्छा सोचते रहो? That is not what I am saying. नहीं है ना वो. So what does that mean? हाँ? क्या? Supreme कौन सा supreme? The problem is from Buddhist point of view, there is no creator God. आपको शौक लगेगा, परमात्मा नहीं है. हाँ. जितना पोल्यूशन यहाँ हो रहा है, हम लोग नहीं बोल सकता परमात्मा ने किया. Now, with due respect, you believe whatever you want, but I'm just explaining the Buddhist viewpoint. Anyway, let us don't go into that field. So the long-term source of happiness, the main source for long-term happiness is from within. That is correct. Until to that point we are correct. Now we need to explain this. When we say the main source of long-term happiness is within, it means, I'm trying to simplify it, otherwise you can say the main source is compassion, main source is patience. I cannot say they are wrong, but I'm trying to speak from a larger encompassing point of view. When I say the long-term source of happiness is within, that means the long-term main source of happiness is correct attitude, correct mental way of thinking. Agree? इसमें भी 10 कर लो, ठीक है? So, okay, this is a big development. The main source of long-term happiness is correct attitude. What do you mean by correct attitude? Correct attitude for me means a way of thinking that is in harmony with the law of nature. Correct thinking means way of thinking which is in harmony with the way things are. Okay? The way things are. This is important because in our case we hardly make any effort to understand the way things are. When I say the way things are, it may be impermanence, it may be suffering, it may be emptiness, it may be interdependent origination, so many aspects of truth. That is the way of happiness. But we hardly think about it because we always keep on seeing what we want to see, not what we should be seeing. We keep on listening what we want to listen, not what we should be listening. That's our problem. Why? Because we are addicted. Addicted. And you know very well the meaning of addiction. We are addicted in all these negative emotions. We are addicted in all these sensual objects. Today, people everywhere are saying, I am busy. As if to be busy is very important. But I've been challenging them, saying, my dear friend, my dear sister, it's not important that you're busy. The important thing is, what are you busy about? व्यस्त होना कुछ बड़ी बात नहीं है. किस चीज़ में व्यस्त हैं? ज़्यादातर फालतू चीज़ में व्यस्त हैं हम लोग. इस भागदौड़ की ज़िंदगी बोलता है ना हम लोग, कहाँ दौड़ रहा है आप, किस दिशा में दौड़ रहा है, किसके लिए दौड़ रहा है. Forgive me for small useless things. बच्चे हैं हम लोग सब. Buddha calls us my children. सोच समझ नहीं है, तो इसलिए छोटे छोटे की चीज़ में दौड़ रहा है. अभी मैं किसी से मजा करके बोल रहा था कि अब क्या करूं, इतना सुधरना इतना आसान नहीं है, ये फिर भी ये सिलसिला चलते रहेगा. मैंने बोला ये सिलसिला चलते रहेगा, क्योंकि संसार में अब आके कुछ ना कुछ तो करना है. फायदेमंद हो या ना हो, कुछ ना कुछ करना है. और कुछ ना कुछ करने का मतलब ये है कि जो सब लोग कर रहा है उसी के पीछे दौड़ना है हमने. तो सब लोग कर रहे हैं उसी के पीछे, बिना सोचे समझे, इतना बड़ा दिमाग लेकर के बिना सोचे समझे दौड़ने का मतलब क्या होता है? गलत दिशा में दौड़ना. गलत दिशा में दौड़ना. किसी ने बोला था कि आप ज़िंदगी में कभी भी परेशान मत रहो, क्योंकि या तो आप स्वस्थ हैं या आप बीमार हैं. स्वस्थ है, इफ़ यू आर हेल्दी, नो नीड टू वरी बिकॉज यू आर हेल्दी. इफ़ यू आर सिक, दैट्स द प्रॉब्लम. Now if you are sick, either you will be healed or you will die. If you get healed, no need to worry because you get recovered. Now if you die, that's the issue. There's something to think about. Just as if you die, either you will go to heaven or go to hell. Heaven जाने से तो कोई परेशानी नहीं है ना, एंड हेल में जाने से भी कोई परेशानी नहीं, क्योंकि सब आपका रिश्तेदार फ्रेंड्स जितना भी पहले था सब वहाँ बैठा है. That's my point, you see. बोले भाई कब आया, अब चाय पीने आ जाओ. So that's the issue, you see, honestly speaking. Because if you go where majority is going without thinking, you'll go in the wrong direction. That's why even the so-called democracy has become just mobocracy, as we see today. Because the thinking process is wrong. So only a few people like Buddha, Atisa, they took a different initiative to bring about this change. बुद्ध भगवान ने अपना परिवार भी छोड़ दिया, वाइफ भी छोड़ दिया, बच्चा भी छोड़ दिया. कई लोग मेरे पास आते बोलते हैं, गुरुजी आई लाइक बुद्धा's टीचिंग वेरी मच, लेकिन उसने अपना बीवी छोड़ दिया, बच्चा छोड़ दिया, वो मुझे अच्छा नहीं लगता है. तो मैंने बोला तुम मत छोड़ो, तुम चिपकते रहो. हमारे बुद्धि में इतना भी समझ नहीं आता है कि उसने क्यों छोड़ा बुद्ध भगवान ने. उसने अपना घर संस्था दिल से उनके पास करुणा नहीं, इसलिए नहीं छोड़ा, एक बड़ा काम के लिए, संसद जगत के लिए छोड़ना पड़ा. सो थोड़ा कुछ पाने के लिए कुछ छोड़ना पड़ता है, राइट. सो देयरफॉर माय पॉइंट इज, we said we want a long lasting happiness. That long lasting happiness has to come from right mental attitude. Right mental attitude means thinking in harmony with the law of nature. Now thinking in harmony with the law of nature includes the thinking to benefit all beings, bodhicitta. That's in harmony with the law of nature. Now I'll give you a really I can say this is a big statement and a very useful statement. Developing bodhicitta is in harmony with the law of nature. Mark this point. It is found, or you may find it, that generally speaking, if you be compassionate, if you be altruistic, if you be patient, it is more in harmony with the law of nature. Because the law of nature also does not like destruction. तोड़ना फोड़ना ये law of nature में नहीं है. I'll give you an example. For example, on this table, imagine the two very elderly people lying, very elderly, over 90 years, old man 90 years old women यहाँ सो रहा है दोनों बुजुर्ग हैं और बीमार हैं and all over their body is covered with the wounds and pus is oozing out. So they are in a very difficult, pathetic situation here. Let us imagine something like that. When you see these two elderly people here in that very difficult situation that we are seeing, that is the truth. When you see the law of nature or when you see the truth, how it promotes love and compassion, that's why I'm trying to explain. So when you see this to very elderly person, will you develop anger? No, please answer this carefully. When you see this very elderly sick person, will you develop anger? नहीं है ना, एंगर नहीं आ रहा है ना, गुस्सा, हेट्रेड आ रहा है. If you are sane, insanity में सब कुछ होता है, लेकिन if you are sane, you won't develop anger, you won't develop jealousy, you won't develop hatred. करुणा आएगा नहीं आएगा, थोड़ा कुछ तो कम से कम आएगा. बोला कि बेचारा ये कौन होगा, इनको पानी दो, हॉस्पिटल में ले जाओ. That is what I am saying. This is a big statement. Please, you can do some research on this also. I strongly feel that. It's because we don't know the reality, the law of nature. हाँ, अपने खोया हुआ जगत में हम लोग जी रहे हैं. तो जैसे कि मैंने बोला, जो जिसको तुमने समझना चाहिए वो नहीं समझ रहा है. So that's why these days I've started speaking. Look, we have right now over 8 billion human population. है ना? And all this over 8 billion human population are dead after 100 years, counting from today. Don't get shocked. For some people it will be shocking because we never think about these things. Shiva Martin and Chue Martin, Tenja Mudu, Dubjan Namda Mudu. There's a statement in the Buddhist teaching saying, if you don't recall death, you will not recall Dharma. Even if you recall Dharma, you will not practice. Even if you practice, you will not practice this properly. है ना? So when I say after 100 years counting from today, all this over 8 billion human population dead. I'm not saying they will be killed by ballistic missiles or nuclear bombs, but even otherwise, that is our lifespan. Why I have to say this? I mean, this in fact is a general statement. But in our case, depending upon your age, you're not going to live 100 years. I'm not going to live 100 years. I'm over 70. Maybe I'm lucky another 10 years. That is what we need to think. And that is not to unnecessarily create fear in yourself. That is to help you do the right thing. That's why great teachers like Shantideva, they said, you don't have to kill people, they will die. वो अकल हमारे नहीं है. Ballistic missile बना रहा है, nuclear bomb बन रहा है. Right now we have over 20,000 nuclear warheads ready to be thrown, and most of these are in the hand of our lunatic leaders. और हम लोग भी अपने स्तर पर बहुत कुछ गलत करके बैठा है. So that's my point. So the way you live doesn't seem like you want long-lasting, forget about long-lasting happiness. Even temporary happiness, you don't look like you want happiness. So therefore, the reason we talk about Bodhicitta and compassion is that these are the real medicines that can give you reliable, stable, long-lasting happiness. इधर से शुरू करना है हम लोग. So what is Bodhicitta? Bodhicitta means the wish to become Buddha, the wish to attain that Bodhi. The definition is the wish to become a Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. अब इसमें आप देखो, number one, it's an altruistic attitude. Not just an altruistic attitude, but there cannot be a benevolent mind more greater than this. Wish to become Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings, including your enemies. अब देखो, this is the situation you see. So therefore, you read Shantideva's text and other texts, they said, always I pay homage to Bodhicitta. And if you read this text called Praising the Bodhicitta, This has been now translated, written by the late Kinori Lama, Tenzin Gyaltsen. If you are going to sleep, practice bodhicitta. If you are going to go for a walk, practice bodhicitta. If it is day, practice bodhicitta. If it is night, practice bodhicitta. If you are happy, practice bodhicitta. If you are not happy, practice bodhicitta. If you are suffering from depression, practice. Whole book he has written this. Now this has been translated into English also. I mean, this is really the good news. And that also clearly shows we are unable to do one practice properly. If you are able to do one practice properly, like compassion or bodhicitta, you will excel. That's why the Buddha said, if you have one quality in the palm of your hand, you have all the qualities in the palm of your hand. What is that quality? Great compassion. And compassion means the wish that all sentient beings are free from suffering. If you genuinely have this wish to wish everybody to free from suffering, where is the room for exploitation? Where is the room for division? Where is the room for segregation? Where is the room for bullying? You will only say, oh my goodness, this person may be very rich, this person may be very poor, this person is very handsome, this woman is very beautiful, so on and so forth. But they are all suffering, they are all going to die. अभी उनको पता नहीं बेचारा खोया खोया जा रहा है, थोड़ा कुछ उसको खुशी मिल रहा है, चलो ठीक है, इतना मिलने से भी ठीक है. I pray that he will at least get some kind of happiness. वही सोचता रहेगा. That's why we say love is a quality that the blind can see and the deaf can hear. सबके ऊपर प्रभाव करता है उसका compassion and love. And the first beneficiary of practice of loving kindness and compassion is not other people, it's yourself. If you practice, not just talking, if you practice, right? So therefore, there is a quotation which says, for you and for others, if you want to achieve that supreme enlightenment, the root is bodhicitta and wisdom, understanding, emptiness. Root is bodhicitta and wisdom, understanding, emptiness. So bodhicitta, as I explained, is a wish saying that how nice if I become Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. Just bring me one mind which seems like bigger than this. Patience लो, ये लो, जो भी लो, ऐसा कुछ भी मन नहीं है जो बोलता है कि सबको. And when we say things like that, then people say, oh, this is too much. How can I develop this wish to my enemy who has been harassing me, who has looted all my wealth, who has thrown me into the prison? Because our mind is not trained. If your mind is trained, you will develop even more compassion to those people. There is one Guruji now who some years back passed away. He was in Chinese prison for 16, 17 years. He was a monk from Namgyal Monastery. His Holiness knew him before he left Tibet. So one day His Holiness asked him to come, and then His Holiness asked him, you have been in the prison for so many years. On few occasions you must have suffered very much. He said, yes, few occasions I suffered very much. Then His Holiness said, what kind of suffering? Threat to your life? He said, no, not threat to my life. Fear of losing compassion for these torturers. Because the more they were torturing, the more they were thinking about their negative karma and the consequences, and he was feeling compassionate, developing compassion. But on certain occasions, the torture was so great that he was facing this threat of losing compassion, you see. हो सकता है ये, ऐसा नहीं कि हम हवा में बात कर रहे हैं, हो सकता है. Take the example of your family members, very beloved family members. It is not that they are all good. नहीं है ना. लेकिन उनको अपने फैमिली मेंबर को कुछ हद तक आपके पास प्यार है. सच प्यार हो या ना हो, कुछ हद तक प्यार है. इसलिए उनका बड़ा चढ़ा के कुछ आपको परेशान करने से भी अब टॉलरेट कर लेता है ना, क्योंकि थोड़ा कुछ आपके पास उनके प्रति करुणा या compassion या loving kindness है. So that's the thing. If when you really love somebody, even if they say nasty things, even if they torture things, you will not develop hatred and anger. So this all needs a proper perspective, proper understanding, and meditation. So okay, now I'll say a few words on meditation. Number one, before I talk about meditation of Bodhicitta, what is meditation? Many people, as soon as they hear the word meditation, they think, oh, sit in a corner. with cross-legged postures, जो सब किताब में लिखा हुआ है वही तुम रटाओ, उसी तरह तुम बैठो, ये भी है. That is also one form of meditation. एक बार मेरे पास one Western nun came to me and she said, Geshe, can you please teach me meditation? I said, yes, I can teach you. ज़्यादा समय नहीं लगेगा, मैंने बोला. So the meditation that I'm going to teach is to tell you that this whole morning you imagine you are not human being, but you are a cow. अब गाय हैं this morning. So think like a cow, live like a cow, behave like a cow. वही करो meditation, और कुछ नहीं करना. I really felt like that. Then you will know what it means to be a human being. नहीं तो हमको पता नहीं चलता. Today, in fact, people are, it's very difficult for me to call anybody human being. Human being, the word human being has this connotation of having some ethical point. One of the important components of human being is to have this ethical point. अब वो नहीं है फिर एनिमल से क्या फर्क है आपको? Human beings are those who are able to use their brain and capacity to think and judge what is good for you, what is good for others, what is good temporarily, what is good in the long run. वो भी हम लोग ज़्यादा नहीं करता, जैसे मैंने बोल दिया. We hardly think, we simply follow others. अब दिमाग का हमारा ज़्यादा इस्तेमाल नहीं है. Einstein he is a great scientist. Even he said, I'm not able to use my brain more than 7-8%. And he said, if I'm able to use at least 11-12%, I can create all miracles, all kind of miracles in the world. हम लोग नहीं करता है. दूसरा, second very important feature of human being is the language. Language हम लोग गलत इस्तेमाल कर रहे हैं. And this language is not only for saying bring tea, bring chai. इसके लिए नहीं है language. This language is for negotiation, a dialogue. When there's a problem, use your language and solve the problem through negotiation and dialogue. This is special human capacity. If there's a disagreement between tigers and lions, then they cannot say, let us sit down and have dialogue, negotiation. क्योंकि उनके पास भाषा नहीं है. They don't have the language. So in their case, the only thing they can do is use their physical power and pounce upon each other and try to tear each other apart. वही और कुछ नहीं कर सकता. हम लोग वही कर रहे हैं. तो जानवर से हम कहाँ बेहतर हैं? बैलिस्टिक मिसाइल फेंक दूंगा, एटम बम फेंक दूंगा, फेंक रहा है, फेंक दूंगा नहीं, फेंक रहा है, कितने बर्बाद किया अभी. So we are becoming not only like animals, worse than animals. And because animals don't have very clever brain and sophisticated mind, so the damage they do is mainly physical. It's very limited damage. Now in our case, with this corrupted wisdom, corrupted intelligence, क्या invent करके बैठा हम लोग ने for destruction. How many things we have invented into this world. तो इसीलिए हम लोग यहाँ बोलना चाहिए कि बच्चे सुधर जाओ, बच्चे सुधर जाओ. Really, it's horrible. The way we are living is really horrible. So therefore, people like His Holiness is always talking about compassion, love, Bodhicitta. लेकिन सुनने वाला कहाँ है? कोई सुनेगा लेकिन उसको प्रयास करने वाला कहाँ है? जिनके पास पावर है, शक्ति है, वो क्या कर रहा है? कुछ नहीं कर रहा है इन चीज़ों में. They are only advertising, and saying big things, how to bring technology, this material development. अभी आजकल तो सब artificial intelligence. कुछ समझ में आओ या ना आओ, artificial intelligence पीछे दौड़ रहा है. Really, that's the problem. So the main problem in today's society is you don't know how to live alone. Meditation आपसे नहीं होगा. You don't know how to live alone and also don't know how to live with others. बहुत बड़ा मुश्किल है ये. You should either know how to live alone, do meditation and practice, karuna, and if you don't, at least be kind and live nicely with others. वो भी नहीं है, दोनों नहीं है. तो मुश्किल है ना. तो इसीलिए when we talk about meditation, we are basically saying, number one, be with yourself. Be with yourself. The person with whom you have less connection is yourself, not other people. For making connection with other people, क्या चाहिए मैंने नहीं किया. मोबाइल फ़ोन भी है, वेबसाइट भी है, ऑनलाइन टीचिंग भी ये है वो है, सब कुछ है. To get connected with yourself, you use mobile phone to get connected with yourself. Some of these modern products, you use this to connect with yourself. No, my dear. The only way to connect yourself is meditation. Think, meditation, think. So meditation means, now I'm explaining the meaning. Meditation means you are controlled by your mind. Correct? आपका एग्रीमेंट लेना है उन्हें. You are controlled by your mind, right? Your mind is predominantly controlled by negative emotions. Yes है कि no है? Yes है ना? I'm not saying completely, this is very pessimistic, but your mind is predominantly controlled by negative emotion. So therefore, when we say you are controlled by your mind, we are basically saying you are controlled by your mind which is predominantly negative. अब उसका रिजल्ट क्या होगा? सफरिंग होना ही है. When you are controlled by a bad president, bad prime minister, it is bound, it's definite that you will encounter problems, difficulties. So similarly, when you are controlled by a mind which is predominantly stupid, short-sighted, negative, you are going to get all kind of problems. So therefore, developing bodhicitta is developing a larger perspective, not only thinking about yourself, but thinking about all other sentient beings. And forget about long-term achievement of enlightenment. That is, of course, possible, it is said in the text. But short-term benefit is, most of us suffer unnecessarily because you think just about yourself. Just about yourself. I, me and mine. I, me and mine. मुझे क्या होगा, मेरे परिवार को क्या होगा. Only small circle. परिवार में भी कुछ झगड़ा हो गया तो परिवार भी कुछ नहीं, मैं. At a sudden glance, it looks like you are very cohesive and good with your family, but if there is a problem with your family, then who you will defend? मैं. माता जी आप गलत है, बहन जी आप गलत है, my dear wife you are wrong. That's the problem. So now this is clearly stated in Buddhism. The source of all problem is I, me and mine, grasping and clinging to I, me and mine. Now this is supported by scientific finding by saying that people who make lot of self-references, they are prone to all kind of diseases including heart attack. Data दे करके प्रूव किया है. क्योंकि because the reason is your focus is narrow. When your focus is narrow, within that small little focus, even if there is a small problem, you tend to see it as if it is of unsurmountable magnitude. When you have a larger perspective, yes, मेरे पास दुख है, लेकिन मेरे से भी ज़्यादा दुख वाला बहुत है. I have problem. It's not saying that I have no problem. I have a problem, but I'm lucky because I live in a free country. I live in a place where friends and others can come and help. I have access to all kind of food and medicine. Imagine those people who are suffering in some other countries where there's conflict is going on, war is going on. Look at like Ukraine and some other places. Lucky. So you are sick, but still because of this mental attitude, you feel happy. And that feeling of happy comparatively makes your illness heal quickly. This is again scientifically proved. ऐसे हम लोग झूठी बात नहीं बोल रहे हैं. Really. So, it is in our hand. Therefore, one of the Tibetan teacher, he said, there is nobody who will catch hold of your hand and throw you into heaven. कोई भी नहीं कर सकता. बुद्ध भगवान भी नहीं कर सकता है. कोई भी नहीं कर सकता है. There's nobody, meaning nobody, including whoever is good and compassionate and your friend, they have no capacity to throw into heaven. Similarly, there is nobody, even your worst enemy, who can catch hold of your leg and drag you into hell. So your happiness and your suffering is in your hand. Do not cheat yourself. अपने आप को धोखा मत दो. So therefore, since you wanted long-lasting happiness, develop bodhicitta. That means always develop this wish to become Buddha. Because it's not only you, everybody wants happiness. So you have this wish to help everybody. What's the best way of helping everybody? Distributing money? You don't have money. Even if you have money, even if Bill Gates or whoever who has a lot of money, they distribute all their money. कुछ दिन के लिए तो वो खाएगा पिएगा हाँ हाँ हु बोलेगा फिर खत्म हो गया फिर क्या होगा है ना. So they say the only way that I can help is that I myself should become Buddha, or at least more enlightened, more educated. Those people who are more educated, if they have a good heart, they have much better capacity to help many, versus those who are not educated. Just to give you an example. So you don't have to wait until you completely get enlightened. And if you completely get enlightened, then you know, you can read people's mind. इसने पूर्व जन्म में क्या किया, अगले जन्म में ये क्या करने वाला है. So according to the needs and mental dispositions of the people, you come up with different process of help. है ना? So that's why we, on a very small scale, we need education so that we are able to help many others. So Bodhicitta. So now meditate means you don't have to meditate just in front of me. Meditate means think about this again and again. The benefits, the great benefits. Recite these words. I think you should, probably you have distributed, otherwise you can distribute these words. I take refuge to the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha until I achieve enlightenment. So that is taking refuge. Taking refuge helps you go into the right path from the wrong path. Then next, through my practice of giving and so forth, may I become Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. That kind of bodhicitta, that kind of mind help you move from the inferior path to the superior path. Inferior path means path that where you think only about yourself. So these words you should recite as much as possible, or at least mentally you should think about cultivating bodhicitta. Right now there will be questions whether you due to this you have to be a Buddhist or not Buddhist. Those questions are there, but I'm not going to discuss more about this. Right? So to make a long story short, all this good mind, compassion, loving kindness, patience, bodhicitta, you need to read a little bit more about that and make your mind habituated with that. That is called meditation. As I said, you are controlled by your mind. Your mind is predominantly controlled by negative emotions. Therefore, you are suffering. Therefore, now you should make your mind habituated with positive things. So meditation is making your mind habituated with the reality, habituated with positive ways of thinking. Because right now, as I mentioned, right now we are very strongly addicted. Anger comes instantly, hatred comes instantly, fighting comes automatically. But bodhicitta बोलने से कौन सा चिड़िया का नाम है पता नहीं हमको. Clearly showing that we are not habituated. So get habituated with these things. And you should always feel happy that I am a human being. I am able to do all this. अगले जन्म में आप कोई गाय भैंस वगैरह में जन्म लेने से कुछ भी नहीं कर सकेगा हम लोग. So therefore Shantideva says, having found this very rare to find precious human life, then if I don't make myself habituated with positive ways of thinking, there's nothing more deceiving than this. There's nothing more ignorant than this. Right? अभी कहाँ पहुँच गया समय सासुएं हालम हाँ कैसे दो कमा. So for the sake of some people are fond of closing their eyes. Huh? Oh, okay. So I'm lucky. I already passed 40 minutes. Huh? अभी next 40 minutes में survive करना है ना. So 40 minutes हम लोग क्या करेंगे कि 20 minutes को, because people are so fond of physically doing something which is good, which is I have been urging. So in this case, many of you are familiar with meditation. Normally people talk so much about observing postures. If I will explain that later on also. So that means as far as physical posture is concerned, you need to put the right hand on the left hand and form a triangle, and the tip of the thumb should be at the level of your navel. Okay? Then of course right now we are sitting on a chair in the Maitreya position. Otherwise normally we sit cross-legged, but that is okay. And look at the two elbows. These two elbows should not be touching like this. थोड़ा ventilation होना चाहिए. थोड़ा बीच हवा जाने के लिए थोड़ा सा रखना चाहिए. And then let your tongue touch the palate, because if you sit for a long meditation, saliva might fall out, you might get thirsty. So in order to stop that, gently touch the tongue to the upper palate, not forcibly. Then your two eyes should not gazing, but let your two eyes, look towards the nose, not trying to see the nose, because some people have very little flat nose, so they'll have problem. So you don't have to try to see it. So just let your two eyes fall towards that, and then what? A sit cross-leg posture, and two shoulders should be straight, not towards on the left, not towards on the right, not back, not forward. Because in one text, I did not see this in many texts. In one text I saw, if this shoulder is more on the left side, that induces attachment. You can do research on this. And if it is more on the right side, it induces hatred, anger. If it is more back, arrogance. That I can understand very easily, because arrogant people, they look like this. Hey, hi sir, kaise hai? ऐसे जाता है ना, so arrogance. And then if the head is more bent towards down, it induces sleep. Will be easy to understand. So little bit gazing down, but not try to see your nose. And then the most important thing is your mind. So to start with, normally they suggest breathing meditation. Okay, the main purpose of breathing meditation is to calm down your disturbed mind. You cannot just sit and ask the mind to meditate. First you need to make your mind calm. So for that, you just watch your breath going out. Don't make special effort. Just make sure your mind is focusing. Imagine that your mind is in between the two nostrils, and when the breath goes out, make sure the mind is almost like riding on it. When the breath comes in, make sure the mind is focusing on that. So the exhaling, inhaling can be counted as 1. Then exhaling, inhaling 2. Exhaling, inhaling 3. So to start with, let us test with this meditation how far you are able to concentrate on the breath. Because normally when you ask your mind to consider something, it will never do that. Immediately 100,000 things will come in your mind. Let us try this. Just watch your breath. Going out, coming in. Going out, coming in. 1, going out, coming in. 1, going out, coming in. 2. So for how many counts your mind is able to do this? Let us do this for a few seconds or minutes. Yeah. Okay, this is just an experiment. You can do this forever. And the purpose of watching this breath is your breath is the remote control to your brain. Health of your brain is also dependent upon your proper breath. So when you do such kind of breathing meditation, you will know where is the problem. Not only in terms of your breath, but also in terms of physical illness. Many times you may have certain physical illness, but you may not notice it. But when you focus on the breath, then you can immediately know, oh, there is a pain in my leg. There is a pain in my back. And also interestingly, when you focus on something, your sharpness of your senses also increases. You can hear the chirping of the birds and other things more clearly. Normally you are not able to hear it. So that's the benefit. That's the benefit. So it's really, really important to be with oneself, as I mentioned, to be with oneself. To be with oneself. At least every morning, just at least spend 5-10 minutes. Just sit, just be with yourself. Be happy with yourself. And that's not easy. Because when I give such kind of talks, sometimes people out of curiosity, they ask me, Geshe, are you not living alone? I said, yes, I live alone. Are you still happy? Yes, I'm happy. Why they are asking such question? Because they think you don't have a wife or husband and children to fiddle with, you are unhappy. They ask me, are you happy? Yes, I'm happy. How? I'm happy because I have a place to sleep. I have something to eat. And I can read all the books. Nobody is disturbing me. I'm healthy right now. So I'm really happy. Right? So, and especially when you live alone, you get a lot of time to really explore your inner qualities, who you are, what you want, what kind of emotions are going on. Mauka mil jata ab. Right? So it's important to sit alone and think about the meaning of human life. Okay. Then you should, now for the practice of bodhicitta, after this breathing meditation, then you should think that all this over 8 billion human population, plus all sentient beings, the birds, the animals, they all want happiness. They all want happiness. Even if the birds, they're moving, they're changing sides, they do so in pursuit of happiness. Right? So even though they want happiness, but because of ignorance, they're moving in the wrong direction. As Shantideva very eloquently said, that even though you want happiness, but because of ignorance, your own happiness is destroyed as if it is your enemy. Even though you have this wish to remove suffering, but you always chase suffering. Always continue to accumulate the causes of suffering. Just to give a simple example, if you are somebody who is addicted in eating chocolate, and getting sick, getting diabetic or something, people say it's not good for your health. Still you will say, thoda sa. That's the problem, you see. And kabhi bhi aap nahi chhodenge, thoda sa karke. And you know this famous phrase, it is the last straw that broke the camel's back. थोड़ा थोड़ा करके फिर अब बहुत बड़ा बीमार हो जाता है. We don't realize this. Right? So therefore you should not just think about yourself, think about all other people, who really are running in all directions. They are moving to America, to Canada, or maybe working here, working there, running all the time in pursuit of some kind of happiness. But because they are running in the wrong direction, they are not really, they want happiness, but they are not moving towards happiness, but they are moving towards pleasures. As I mentioned earlier, the people today say they are busy, they are running not for happiness, but for pleasure. How you can see something beautiful, smell something fragrant, taste something sweet, hear something melodious. This is the direction where we are running. And it is because of this relentless pursuit of the 5 sensual objects, all these malls sprung up. Because these business people, they know, इनको ये चाहिए बस, इनको ये बना दो, इसको थोड़ा सा सुंदर सा पैकेज बना दो, ये बेवकूफ़ लोग सब आके ले जाएगा. वही हो रहा है हम लोग. Really. सोच नहीं सकता, डिटर्मिनेशन नहीं कर सकता है. अभी चाय के समय में हम लोग ऐसे गुरु जी के लोगों के साथ बात कर रहा था, ये सब ये करना, बोधिचित्ता ये करना. हाँ, करना तो बहुत है, लेकिन मुश्किल है. फिर इसलिए ये सिलसिला ऐसे ही चलता रहेगा. सदियों में एक दो पर्सन आएगा, महात्मा बुद्ध या कोई एक दो आ सकता है, बाकी लोग. I'm not trying to be pessimistic. All I'm saying is, I'm not discouraging you also. All I'm saying is, if you really want to change and progress and long-term happiness, अपने निर्णय लेना है, निर्णय लेकर के कुछ करना है. And you will be surprised to see the benefit if you do it. If you don't do it, it's like talking about the quality of the delicious food available in the canteen. If you don't eat any of those items, कैसे पता चलेगा आपको? That's why the Buddha said, I've shown you the path to liberation. Liberation is up to you. अब नहीं करने से मैं कुछ नहीं कर सकता, है ना? So therefore, you should, the main point is you should develop this wish to become Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. So that wish to become for the all benefit of all sentient beings is called aspirational bodhicitta. Within bodhicitta there are two. One is called aspirational bodhicitta, another is called engaging bodhicitta. Aspirational bodhicitta means aspire. How nice if I become Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. ये बार बार आप सोचो. This itself is very important. But then at a later stage, it's not enough to have the aspiration, but फिर engage करना, अपने काम करना है. Shantideva explains this beautifully by saying, if you want to go to Karol Bagh, then the wish to go to Karol Bagh is the aspirational bodhicitta. लेकिन सिर्फ सोचने से करोल बाग में थोड़ी पहुंचेगा, या तो ऊपर मंगवाओ या तो पैदल में जाओ तब पहुंचेगा ना. So उसी तरह next time is engaging bodhicitta. You take the bodhisattva vow and then you pledge to undertake the practice of the 6 or 10 perfections. Dana paramita, Shila paramita, Virya paramita, all those 10 or 6 perfections, you need to actually practice it. That is called engaging. Okay, so there's one level of explaining the conventional bodhicitta, we call it. Conventional bodhicitta is of two types, aspirational bodhicitta and ultimate bodhicitta. अब किताब बहुत सारा है आजकल, luckily there are so many books there. So you read more and as much as possible develop it, get your mind habituated with that. Okay, then tomorrow I'll explain a little bit about the ultimate bodhicitta. As Shantideva, Atisa explains in his Lamp for the Path to Enlightenment, Tabdan Treve, Shirabdan, Shirabtrave, Tabda, Kanjir Chingwa, Shezwa, Kebenika Bangmijas. He clearly says, a wisdom devoid of method, like bodhicitta, and a method, wisdom of compassion, devoid of wisdom, are both bondages. Both bondages means if you have only wisdom and no compassion, no karuna, at the most you become liberated from samsara for yourself, but not enlightenment for others. Right? If you have only method, the bodhicitta and other things, you may bring some benefit, but you will not get again enlightened. So both must be there. These are two sides, like two wings of the bird. Right? Therefore, learned ones should not divorce them, should not abandon any of them. In simple language, compassion and bodhicitta means heart. Wisdom, I call it head. So combination of head and heart. In ordinary language also, if you are somebody who has knowledge, good knowledge, but that knowledge is supported by love and compassion for others, that knowledge is very, very useful. Whether you are doctor or professor, whatever field you are doing, if you have knowledge, ज्ञान भी है और दिल भी है, दोनों होने से, right? And then in Buddhist practice, when we talk about bodhicitta and wisdom understanding emptiness, we are on a higher pedestal. So even on the ordinary level, two must be there together. On the other hand, if you have only brain and no heart, you will invent nuclear bomb. ठीक है ना? दिमाग तो है उनके पास. All these ballistic people who invented all these ballistic missiles, smart bombs, and they are also smart, but karuna nahi hai unko. Their only aim is to get money. ठीक है ना? So that's the problem. So this must go together. Like His Holiness Dalai Lama, who has compassion and who has wisdom together. Just one person is bringing so many benefits. Millions of people are getting benefit from that. Right? As clear as that. We have living examples today, luckily. Right? Otherwise, you learn so many things, know so many things. What is the purpose? What's the purpose? Right? So then, at least in the Buddhist field, when you get habituated with these positive practices, you leave an imprint on your mind. That mind goes to the next life, and your next life's travel also will be smooth. This is another very important point that I'm telling you. Many people nowadays don't believe in past and future lives. Recently, when I was in England, also somebody really asked me, these days so many debates are going on between past and future lives. What do you say? पूछा था हमको. तो मैंने उसको जवाब दिया, एक तो वो पास्ट एंड फ्यूचर लाइफ को छोड़ो, कल क्या होगा आपको पता है? मैंने पूछा उनको. In simple language, your tomorrow is your kind of next life. दूर का बात करने का कोई ज़रूरत नहीं. कल क्या होने वाला आपको पता है? नहीं है, लेकिन उम्मीद है कल जिएगा. वो भी छोड़ो. आपके पास शरीर और मन दोनों है ना. ये मन क्या चीज़ है पता है? बोलता तो बहुत बोलता है ना, हमारा मन दुखी है, ये हो गया वो हो गया, लेकिन बताओ मुझे मन क्या है, कहाँ है? So the point that I'm making is, people hardly believe anything that is not corporeal. बोलने के लिए बोल देता है, लेकिन they believe primarily in the material things. This is how science came into being, right? But the point is, there is not only a thing called mind. The easiest way to understand mind is the energy. The energy goes on, right? And whatever you do, it leaves an imprint or habit in the mind. For example, today, if you fight with somebody violently, the impact of that will be such that tonight you might get the same dream of fighting with that person again. That is called karma and fruit, impact. So the mind goes on. There's no reason why the mind should not continue. So therefore it is important not only think about this life, but for many lives. And the second answer I gave there in that conference was, today hundreds of articles have been written about people who remember their past life. Hundreds, not just one. There was one little girl who remembered her past life. And she remembered that she was shot by somebody here, and the bullet came out from here. She remembered that. And in this life, not only she remembered that, but she has a bulge here and a bulge here. Very, very convincing proofs. Books have been written, articles have been written. और क्या चाहिए आपको? है ना? And then your own capacity to remember so many things. And in your life also so many unexpected things come in your life. How does this happen? So therefore it is clever and wise to get habituated with good things, so that it will really make you happy in this life and for many lives to come. Thank you. Namaskar. I recited this Buddha's verse. Okay, remember please. I've shown you the path to Nirvana. Nirvana is up to you. Bodhicitta, apni meditation karna hai. Thank you.